I get asked frequently how I paint such tiny 6mm figures. And I gotta be honest, I don't think I paint them all that well. I just paint them quickly so people see a lot of troops on the table and they admire mostly the look of a complete army on the table, not any individual figures. So when I'm painting, that's my goal, is to paint up entire units. Now, these guys, the commanders, those I may spend a little extra time on, but by and large, there are so few of them that I can afford to spend a little extra time on making them more attractive. Now, my goal is to give the feeling that you're looking at a complete army. So you've got to have enough troops to make it look like an army. Here are some of my favorites. They're hussars, and apparently the cat thinks they're pretty cool too. So when I'm painting, I paint quickly so that I can get a complete army on the table. Now, all my figures are 3D printed, so I've skipped over the part where I take them off the printer, clean them up, and prime them black. So here you see a line of Prussian line infantry already glued to sticks, and you'll see that I glue them all facing the same direction. This saves me some time when I'm flipping them around. I don't have to flip the painting stick back and forth to get out all the faces. If you're interested in where I got the figures, I'll leave links to the designers in the comments. So for these guys, my goal is to emulate the guy all the way on the left. This plate is from a book called Battledress, and I'll leave the information for that book in the comments as well. So if you're like me, looking at a completely black figure, it's hard to see any of the detail. So I start off with a pretty quick dry brush of white. This does a couple things for me. There's straps and pants and such that will be white in the end, and it's a lot easier to paint those straps by dry brushing the entire model and then just dodging around it when I paint the rest of the coat and the details. You can see here how the dry brush picks out those straps and the pant legs. So I just go through and I don't really focus on cleanliness. I'm just slapping a dry brush of white paint on, and usually I go a lot quicker when I'm not wrestling a camera in front of me between me and the models. Another thing it does is it makes it easier to see the details that I'll want to put paint on later. So first off, I'm going to start off with some blue. This is a brighter blue than typical for Prussians, but I find on smaller models and models particularly primed in black, you want a little bit brighter color because you're going to lose some of that brightness when you put it on small figures that have been primed in black. So I just go down the line and hit the same location on each and every figure as I go down the line. Again, here we see me wrestling with the camera and painting at the same time. Sorry about the focus. So I go down the line, hit the left and the right sleeves. I don't really worry about getting the rest of the jacket. And I flip the stick over and get the left and right sleeves from the back. And it doesn't have to be perfect because no one's going to look at any individual figure when you're done. They're looking at the unit as a whole. So you're trying to give a gestalt of infantry unit drawn up in formation. Here you can see how quickly I can go down the line when I don't have a camera in the way. The idea is to get these done as quickly as possible with just the blue in the right position for the casual observer to see a line of infantry dressed in blue jackets. Here you can see that sometimes it's easier to get at the other side of the figure when you flip the stick upside down. do whatever makes it easiest to get the work done quickly. Here's the progress so far with the white dry brush and blue on the jackets. You can see some of the guys, I'm even missed some of the sleeves, and I may go back and touch those up later, or I may just leave them because no one's going to notice. Next up is the rifles, adding a little bit of brown down the side, just as quick as possible, a couple quick strokes. The trick is to make sure that your paint is really watered down so it flows easily. You don't want a lot of blobs, and the easier it flows, the quicker you can apply it. Here's another example of when you find it easier to flip the painting stick upside down and come at it from a different angle. And here we are so far with the rifles and the blue coats. They're starting to actually look like troops, but there's much more that'll make them turn into real people, and that is when we add the flesh tone. Here you can see how watered down the paint is. I just go down and basically slap each cheek of each figure with the paintbrush, getting the face done. I'm not too worried about getting any on the hats, because I'm going to go through and paint the hats black, because some of them got hit by the dry brush when I was going through dry brushing the white. Then I go down the line and I just tap where the left hand is. Goes much quicker when there's not a camera in the way. I think this step is when you actually turn the figure into tiny people instead of just a collection of colors on a figure. Here's an example of how quickly you can do hands and faces when you're working without a camera in the way. One of the tricks is to leave the stick on the solid surface so you aren't fighting your own hand shaking. Here's the result so far. You can see the straps stick out from the dry brushing, and the hands actually make them look like people. Adding a little more pop by hitting the bayonets with a little steel. You could probably go with a lighter metal color if you wanted. Now I'm going to add a little more color pop with the red cuffs that we saw in the original illustration. You could probably not do this step if you're in a big hurry and just want figures on the table, but once you mount them on the bases, this step is going to be really difficult to go back and to do if you want to add that level of detail to your figures. Here's an example of how fast you can get it done. Here you can see bracing the stick on the table and using my pinky to basically brace it against that stick, so to make as steady a platform for painting as I can. And here we have them so far. One of the things I failed to mention is that when I was painting the muskets brown, I also painted the bases brown. It makes it easier to blend the bases into my flocking material and the bases I build for them. And that's going to be the next video, mounting them and flocking the bases to get you to an actual infantry unit. So if you like this content, hit the like button. If you don't want to see the next video in this series on painting tiny guys, hit the subscribe button. And until next time, go big or go home.